This is the Hound Dog. These are the SAC men of the Strategic Air Command.
So I was born in Janesville, Wisconsin, down in the southern part of the state, and I had an opportunity to go for a penny a pound ride. That was the name of the experience in that era, and it was in a very early model 172. And I can remember a long time ago, I can remember how rough the ride was on this turf runway and how quiet it became after we lifted off. I was with my dad and the pilot, and we flew over my home and my school. That's when I was hooked.
There's a secret among flight instructors that you might not know. The job is hard. But add to that the jobs of certified aviation maintenance technician, aviation historian, aviation safety counselor, airman certification representative, and a lead representative for the FAA's FAST team. Well, that made the job decidedly harder, but it hasn't made a bit of difference to John Dorcey. John has served as an aviation consultant for the Wisconsin Department of Transportation's Bureau of Aeronautics for 22 years. He was the operations manager at Whitman Regional Airport for 5 years. He has conducted well over 250 aviation safety seminars, produced 35 flight instructor refresher courses, and made numerous presentations to the public on various aviation topics. He's received many aviation certificates and awards, flown 94 different aircraft types, and has nearly 11,000 flying hours. Of those hours, more than 5,700 are flight instruction. John says he's retired, but many would disagree. John has a commitment to service that makes him an outstanding CFI. Flight instruction is so much more than the simple mastery of flight skills and book of knowledge. The job is being a mentor, a role model, or sometimes even a caring friend. A great instructor is invested in the student. This teaching job is one of the most intense on the planet, but it can be one of the most rewarding. Wondering how to be a good flight instructor? Well, look no further than John Dorcey.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Started reading voraciously about the space program, brand new. We're talking about the late 1950s. The Mercury astronauts were being selected, and everything I could read about that subject I read. Didn't build model airplanes like the World War II era folks did, but I built model rockets, the Estes model rockets, and launched those. Boy, oh boy, it was excellent and exciting stuff for a young guy. Out of high school, I went into the Air Force, became a missile systems analyst, worked on the Hound Dog missile, went on the B-52.
Many SAC bombers carry missiles to increase their strike range. Some carry decoys to multiply the number of targets an enemy's radar would see.
3, 2, 1, now.
Separation is clean, and the missile begins to pick up speed.
You ain't nothing but a hound dog, but go, bird, go.
I was stationed in North Dakota. All my contemporaries thought, well, geez, John, the weather out here should be easy. You're from Wisconsin. Believe me, winters in North Dakota outside on the flight line were not anything like it was here in Wisconsin. I re-enlisted with the sole idea of doing two things. Becoming a second termer, I was eligible for the GI Bill. I took that money and promptly went down to the airport and started my flying and went on to end my time in the Air Force as a young CFI. I had about 500-600 hours of flight time and all the credentials to go with it. Sadly, my timing was off. The end of Vietnam had happened about 9 months before that, and there was a real pilot glut. And so I sent out lots of resumes and got one written response. And it was from the chief pilot at Johnson Wax in Racine. Same last name, by the way, interestingly enough, small world. He wrote me a letter and said, John, go get your A&P certificate. And I thought, I don't want to get an A&P certificate. I did that kind of work in the Air Force. And he said, no, if you were to get your A&P, you'll become much more employable as a pilot. Best piece of advice I ever got. I have to share. I can remember as a student, private pilot student, my flight instructor, and at the time I was a young GI in North Dakota, and I thought he was just ages older than I, and we completed the private, started towards the instrument, and then he went off and got a job at the airlines, and so in my research for my Wright Brothers Award. Which was 50 years since your first solo, I reached out to him. I found him in Texas, and it turns out he's only 2 years older than I, and retired from United as a pretty high on the seniority ranking. And he shared with me his logbook entry in his logbook of my first solo. And so it really is multi-generational. Even though we're only 2 years apart, he was a generation ahead of me as a pilot, in my estimation. And so now here I am doing the same kinds of things for my students. Now I'm off flying twin Beech airplanes and eventually a DC-3, flying a corporate airplane, old United aircraft out of Rockford. Little did I know that was setting a stage for me as I continued to be active as a flight instructor. That job also offered me the opportunity to become a public speaker. And I did a lot of training back before the internet. We would have someone like myself and an FAA person go out, and we would do seminars 3 nights a week for about 10 weeks out of the year. I think it's important that I owe it to my students to be that well-rounded, right? In fact, I just 2 years ago, I added my seaplane rating. Probably not going to use my seaplane rating a whole lot at this point in my career, but you never know. I might be ready for that seaplane pilot job. But it made me a much better pilot on the land. my students, I think they all would go, I hope, they all go, wow, I'm pretty good because of my instructor. I would argue that I'm pretty good because of them. That's the way I look at it. So yeah, everybody has had an impact on me.
The Wisconsin Aviation's Hall of Fame mission, again, is to collect and preserve aviation in Wisconsin and recognize those that make that history.
But anyway, we continued to grow and continued to experience things that allowed me to shine as we became a member of the board of directors for the Wisconsin Aviation Hall of Fame. One of the things that we wanted to do is to go out and do seminars and teach people about what we were doing and sharing those stories. Is not only, it was a two-way street. Not only did we get to share stories, but we learned more than what we shared. We had an inductee, as it turns out, was a PR guy, and I remember the day like it was yesterday. He came into the board meeting and set us back. He really chewed us out. You guys can't run an organization the way you're doing it. He said that what we need is, we have to have more sizzle on this steak. You got a great steak, we just need a little more sizzle. And Rose had a different way of presenting that, but in the end, that's exactly what she said and did. And all these guys stepped back, and she picked up the banner, and I was running to keep up. I think we were the right people at the right time, and we had a great support staff. The rest of the board were very eager to assist. I think like a lot of groups of people that want to do something, they're just looking for somebody to give direction. And it's so important to remember that each of those two individuals bring something to the equation, right? And there's only one way that we're going to go, 1 + 1 is more than 2, and it starts with that. And I think that we were very fortunate to be able to recognize that in each other, support and encourage each other to strike off in maybe an area that wasn't as comfortable as we might have liked it to have been, but in the end it became success because of that support that we had with each other.
I'm John Schmiel, the president of Wausau Flying Service and the airport manager at the Wausau Downtown Airport. And when I think of John Dorcey, I think of how John has had a positive impact on the people that he's surrounded by at all levels of his career, from working with the Bureau to working at the Oshkosh Airport to being a flight instructor and working at the Wisconsin Aviation Hall of Fame. He's had the innate ability to make the people around him better, and I'm not sure that that's a quality that even John knows that he has, but it's why he deserves to be in the Wisconsin Aviation Hall of Fame.
Amazing part is and having served on the committee, the selection committee in the past, and then even before that, not being on that selection committee, these are some of the people that I had read about, right? That were my heroes, that were like, whoa, way beyond reach for anything that I could possibly do or anything like that. So I'm certainly standing on their shoulders to be able to be recognized like this. So I'm just in awe of being put into that same group of folks. So it's exciting. It really is.